Birinci Dünya Savaşı sırasında Büyük Britanya İmparatorluğu'nun dominyonu olan Kanada topraklarında 24 tane toplama kampı kuruldu. Ontario eyaletindeki Kingston şehrinde bulunan Fort Henry bu esir kamplarının ilkiydi. Şehre hakim konumdaki bu kalede birinci sınıf esirler, yani savaş başladığında tutuklanan Alman donanma subayları gibi esir askerler kalıyordu. Fakat Kanada'nın Birinci Dünya Savaşı'ndaki ilk enterne operasyonlarında tutuklanan insanların çoğu asker değil, sivildi. Suçları sadece Alman, Avusturya Macaristan İmparatorluğu ve Osmanlı İmparatorluğu pasaportu taşımaktı.
Thousands of men and some women and children were unjustly interned in 24 camps spread across the countries, where they were forced to do heavy labor for the profit of their jailers, with what little wealth they had being confiscated, and all because of where they had come from, not because of any wrong they had done. Who were these internees? Most were people who had immigrated to Canada, lured here by promises of freedom and free land by the government of Canada. These were people who had come from the Austro-Hungarian Empire, the Ottoman Turkish Empire, and Germany. People who came seeking a better life, people who were pulled to this country by promises of a better existence.
Savaşın başlamasıyla birlikte Kanada topraklarındaki sürek avı da başladı. Düşman yabancı olarak tanımlanan 80 binden fazla kişi polise kayıt yaptırmaya ve bulundukları yerleri bildirmeye zorlandı. Sivilleri tutuklama operasyonlarını yönetmesi için 1914 Kasım'ında General William Otter atandı. Savaş boyunca 5441 sivil, toplam 8579 kişi esir kamplarına gönderildi. Bunlardan yaklaşık 6000'i Avusturya Macaristan İmparatorluğu vatandaşı, 2000'den fazlası da Almandı. Esirler arasında 205'te Osmanlı İmparatorluğu vatandaşı bulunuyordu. Bu esirlerin çoğu Toronto'nun güneyindeki Brantford şehrinde tutuklanmıştı.
We do know, for example, that in Brantford, Ontario, a large community of Ottoman Turkish workers, perhaps as many as 100 men, essentially one of Canada's earliest Muslim communities, was entirely destroyed by the internment operations. All of the men were arrested and sent to camps. Some probably here to Fort Henry, others to Petawawa and to Kapuskasing. And in fact, we have one photograph clearly of an Ottoman Turkish subject standing in front of the YMCA tent in Kapuskasing. So here are people, here are the beginnings of Canadian Muslim society destroyed.
The Turks that were interned in Kapuskasing, they were most of them were originally from the Brantford area in Ontario. They were accused of, as a group, of plotting to blow up the post office in Brantford, and so they were arrested, and I believe they were brought to Toronto to be held until they were sent to Kapuskasing. And in Kapuskasing, they had their own barracks. They also had their own kitchen so that they could cook the food according to their own requirements.
Küçük bir kasaba olan Kapuskasing adı, o toprakların gerçek sahibi olan Kızılderililerden geliyordu ve anlamı nehirdeki kıvrımdı. Buradaki toplama kampı 14 Aralık 1914'te açıldı.
The first group of prisoners arrived in December of 1914, and there were 56 of them. And their first immediate task was to start building the camp, clearing the land on the west bank of the Kapuskasing River, to clear the land and build barracks for themselves and for officers and guards. And so from that point on, prisoners started arriving fairly regularly. There was a maximum of about 1,200 prisoners at any given time in the camp, although our camp was used a lot as a transfer station between other camps.
Other prisoners, defined as second-class prisoners, mainly Austro-Hungarians but also Ottoman Turks, were sent to this country's remote frontier hinterlands, where they were forced to do heavy labor for the profit of their jailers.
Kamptaki esirlerin yapmakla yükümlü oldukları iki tür iş vardı. Bunlardan ilki kendi rahatları için yapmaları gereken koğuş temizliği, içme suyu bulma gibi işlerdi. İkinci tür ise kamp yönetiminin kendilerine verdiği ağaç kesme, çalı budama, yol inşaatı gibi işlerdi.
The camp conditions could be very, very difficult. This was a very removed area. Spirit Lake, Kapuskasing, in those days took days to get to by train. So these were remote locations in the northern wilderness and the boreal forests of Canada, for example, at Kapuskasing or Spirit Lake or Petawawa, hundreds of miles away from their communities, from their families, from their loved ones, where they were suddenly brought, essentially put in the woods and told to make their own camps, to clear the woods, to clear the forest, to clear the brush, to farm, to build roads, to dig drainage ditches, and so on. This was hard labor under very difficult conditions.
Türk, Alman ya da Avusturyalı olmaktan başka suçları olmayan esirler için Kapuskasing'deki günler geçmek bilmiyordu.
Life was not lovely in the internment camps. For one thing, their liberties were taken away when they shouldn't have been, so they were imprisoned in faraway places like Kapuskasing. Their daily routine consisted of waking up, cleaning themselves, going to roll call, then doing various works, lunch, their different meals, of course, and various work that they could do for pay as well if they wanted to participate in that. They had free time. They could also learn. There were books and teachers so that they could learn. There were religious services as well. But life was rather monotonous and repetitious, so they did a lot of the same things.
Esirler için en dayanılmaz sıkıntılardan biri de kışın öldürücü soğuğuydu. 1915 ve 1916 kışlarında en düşük sıcaklık sıfırın altında 50 dereceyi bulmuştu.
It was cold in Kapuskasing when it was the winter time. Very, very cold. So life would have been very difficult. Their rations were very large with lots of calories. Because they were working, if they were outside, they were burning a lot of calories and so needed to replenish that, even if it was for their own convenience, like cutting ice on the river, cutting firewood. You need a lot of calories. So they had a lot of food, but the food was monotonous as well because it's a 12 to 14-hour train ride from Toronto to bring foodstuffs here. So the food was repetitious and boring. And they were far away from their loved ones. I mean, even communication, mail was censored.
Kapuskasing'deki esirler arasında en çok görülen hastalık veremdi. Hastaneye yatırılan 41 esirden 26'sı veremden ölmüştü. Bunun dışında firar etmeye çalışırken öldürülen esirler de vardı. Savaş boyunca Kanada'daki kamplarda 3 Türk hayatını kaybetmişti.
Throughout the history of the First World War internment, throughout the 24 camps, there were around over 130 deaths that occurred. There were here in Kapuskasing, there were 31. We currently have 22 people who are buried in the internment cemetery, which, by the way, is the only thing that remains of the internment camp. There are only 22 buried there because the people the internees who were German and who had died during internment were actually disinterred and reburied in the Kitchener area because there's a large German population there. Our cemetery also has the bodies of 6 children of officers and guards of the camps, children who died here during the internment operations. Many of the deaths are attributed to disease, of course, the Spanish influenza and tuberculosis. But there were, of course, some cases of suicide, which is a tragedy.
1920 Şubat'ında kapatılan Kapuskasing esir kampının bulunduğu bölge günümüzde devlet çiftliği olarak kullanılıyor. Kamp bölgesinin birkaç kilometre yakınında tel örgülerle çevrili mezarlıkta Alex Hasan adlı bir Osmanlı esirinin de mezarı bulunuyor. İngiliz raporlarına göre Kanada'da esir tutulan 205 Osmanlı vatandaşından sadece 6'sı yurda döndü. 43'ü Kanada'da serbest bırakıldı. Geri kalan esirlerin akıbeti ise maalesef bilinmiyor.